Hey everyone, it's Blue Blade Studios and welcome to episode 22 of Blue Blade's Christmas Cinema. For today's episode, we're going to talk about the remake of A Miracle on 34th Street from 1994, also titled A Miracle on 34th Street. Now there's a few remakes of A Miracle on 34th Street, but I chose this one for a couple reasons. One, it's the first theatrical version as opposed to some of the other ones. And second, this is the most well-known of all the remakes. I also chose to put a remake of one of the films on this list because I want to see how it compares to the original. But before we talk about the differences, let's mention the story. So the story in A Miracle on 34th Street 1994 is, well, the same as the original. Kris Kringle comes to New York City and tells everyone that he is in fact Santa Claus. And this, of course, catches the attention of several people. And several other things happen. He gets involved with a mom and her daughter, and another man who believes he's Santa Claus, and they're taken to court over the whole issue of, is there a Santa Claus? The story is practically the same. A lot of the same beats happen. It's just a lot of the same repeating. But there still is a lot of different things in this movie. I mentioned how I absolutely loved the Santa in the original, and I gotta say, the Santa in this one is also really good. Richard Attenborough gives a really good performance as him, and he's not identical to the original one too. One thing is that this Santa has a little bit more of a temper. I know the original had a bit of a temper too, but Attenborough's version has slightly more of a temper. But he still brings the absolute jolly energy that Santa Claus needs. Instead of Fred Gailey in this movie, we have Brian Bedford, but he's essentially the same character. He does a lot of the same stuff as the original one. He acts as Santa's lawyer in court to help prove that he's real, and he has a small romance with Susie's mom, who instead of Doris is called Dory. Dory in this movie is basically the same as Doris from the original, as she is just full of doubt. She doesn't really have much Christmas spirit, and inflicts this on her daughter. And Susie is also wonderful in this film, just as she was in the original. The film's message is also basically the same thing as well. The whole thing about believing in Christmas spirit is still there, and I'm glad that hasn't changed at all. Now, when you do a remake, essentially you are just doing the same thing. But in my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with changing stuff or doing anything different, because at that point, what's really the point of remaking something if you're not going to do anything different? And there's tons of things that I could mention that they do differently, but I'm really only going to mention 5 things. One of the minor ones is that Macy's is nowhere in this movie at all. Instead, it's Kohl's, down to it being the Kohl's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That doesn't sound right. Certain characters like Albert and Sawyer the psychiatrist are nowhere to be seen. The romance between Brian and Dory is also a little different. It's a little more intimate this time around, and halfway during the film, Brian even proposes to her, but she rejects it. And at the end, they end up getting married. One of the biggest differences about this movie is the change of antagonist. The character Sawyer, the psychiatrist who says that Santa is insane, isn't in this movie at all. So instead, it's actually the rival stores who are the antagonists instead. 2 of the employees at the rival store hire the Santa who got drunk at the parade, and they get him to make Kris angry and provoke him until eventually Kris hits him with his cane. In the original story, the rival stores play a certain part in the story near the beginning, but then they just sort of fade away and are nowhere to be seen at the end. This change makes them feel very much more like antagonists. And the way that the state of New York declares Santa is real and does exist is quite different from the original. In the original, they use the post office, where they see that so many kids have written their letters to Santa Claus, and that the Post Office of America is recognized by the government, and therefore Santa Claus is real. In this version, Susie gives the judge a $1 bill that has a red circle around the text, "In God We Trust." The judge then uses this as evidence to bring up the fact that many people debate on whether or not there is a God, and how, similar to Santa Claus, there are many people who do believe that there is a God, even though we cannot see him. And although the post office with the letters is mentioned in this, it's really the whole thing with Santa and God being similar in the fact that we can't see them, but we still believe in them, that makes the state decide that yes, there is a Santa Claus.
You are a very beautiful young lady. What's your name? Sammy.
Now there are a lot of remakes that are really good, and there are some that are really bad. And this is a really good one. I'm glad that it did certain things different from the original, and basically makes it feel that it's not a shot-for-shot remake. like the 1990s Psycho remake. The one thing about this film that is gone for me is the fact that this isn't an old movie from the 40s, but that's not much of a big deal for me. I still very much enjoyed this movie. I definitely do like the original more, especially with its charm being from the 1940s, but this is by no means a bad film. It's clearly one of those senses where the original's better, but the remake is still pretty good. I definitely recommend watching the original, and I also definitely recommend watching this one, especially watching them back to back. It's neat seeing all the differences. And yeah, that was episode 22 of Blue Blade's Christmas Cinema. We only got 3 more to go, so just hang tight. But with that being said, this is Blue Blade Studios, signing off.